Good evening and welcome to Londata 3. I'm Richard. I'm the CEO of Media Science, who share this space with agency Agenda 21. I'm one of the Mancunian double acts that's behind Londata. The other half of it is Stuart. Stuart's very much the architect behind Big Data Week, and it's been an absolute Herculean effort on behalf of Stuart. So I think we should just put a round of applause for Stuart and his work on Big Data Week. For the newbies amongst you, Londata, it grew out of a conversation that me and Stuart had at O'Reilly's Strata conference last year. And we were chatting about the ecosystem, both in the States, which seemed really quite vibrant, and then also in London, which, whilst starting to get vibrant, was perhaps a couple of steps behind, and particularly around the commercial application of data. There's quite a lot of meetups dealing with sort of what's going on under the bonnet, the architecture, and all that good stuff. And they're fantastic meetups, and there's loads of them around London. But we felt there was something, an opportunity to do something more around the application of data and putting data to work. So that's why we created Londata, and this is the third. And we're very honoured to have a couple of representatives from O'Reilly here this evening. And I think Gina's going to start by saying just a couple of words to you.
Hi, I'm Gina Blaber. I'm the head of conferences at O'Reilly, and this is Ed Dumbill, program chair of O'Reilly. I just want to say it's been great. We've been here for this week. We specifically came here because we wanted to participate in Big Data Week. And I got to say, you guys have a very vibrant community yourselves here. So it's terrific. We just, a few months ago, got done with Strata in Santa Clara, which was a sold-out event with over 2,500 people. So that was exciting. But we're really excited now that we have the call for proposals open for a Strata in London. That's going to happen October 1st and 2nd, right here at the London Hilton Metropole. And we'd love to have you guys, all of you, put in proposals if you're interested in doing a talk there. We had a slide, but we didn't get it up here. The URL is strataconf.com/strataeu. And I'm sure Ed will repeat that at the end.
The success of Big Data Week also points to the fact that there's just a huge amount of hunger for knowledge and to share experience about putting data to work. We specialize in a kind of no bullshit approach to how do practitioners really work in data, covering the exciting stuff, covering also the nuts and bolts over really a broad approach. So we're looking for proposals that if you're a business and how you're using data to create a new business model, to really make your business faster and more competitive. Those kinds of stories are really interesting to us because everybody wants to know how to do it. If you're doing cool stuff with tech, data science, maths, that kind of stuff too. And also, one of the things I'm very excited about is kind of data meets design. We've had an increasingly large sort of proportion of the conference dedicated to visualization, and particularly over here in London, I have a sense that there's a pretty big community in viz and design. And we're very interested because you can do all the calculation you want, but until you can kind of communicate your results to people to get action, a lot of it is useless. We love marketing, but we're also looking for applications in other industries, things that can change the world as well as things that can make a lot of money. It's just so exciting, the energy in the community that's here that I haven't felt actually necessarily all the time over in the US. So thanks for making us welcome. Please go to strataconf.com/strataeu. And we'll make that URL pretty simpler soon, because when we're saying it, we realize something about the usability. But please join us, and thanks for having us here.
Thanks, guys. Much more importantly than that, they've kindly sponsored tonight, so you're drinking their beer. So round of applause for those guys for the sponsorship. So I won't keep you long from the main event. I know you're all excited to hear from the guys at Moshi. Just a quick couple of announcements. Londata 4 is an interesting and exciting event for us that we're partnering up with the guys from 100% Open, all about open innovation, and we're going to kind of mash their community and our community together and see what happens. And that's going to be held at Fujitsu's office in London, and we'll post details about that tomorrow via the meetup group. And then looking further ahead, Londata 5, we're going to disappear for the summer and then come back in September. And we're open to suggestions. So if you have any ideas, thoughts, requests around speakers, formats, you name it, then please come and see me or see Stuart. We'd love to hear from you. So the main event, Moshi Monsters. Why you're all here? Not to me. Listen to me babble on. So Moshi Monsters, who day? Well, I won't steal the thunder. But if you didn't know anything about the scale of their ridiculous growth, what was it? January 2009, 1 million users, registered users, and today just over 60 million. That's not bad. Yeah, wow. So let's hear from Moshi, from CTO, starting off with CTO Toby, about how they put data to work at Moshi Monsters. So, Toby.
So, My Candy is actually a 7-year-old company. We started a project called Perplex City, 2003, 2004. I joined about 5.5 years ago when the company just did a Series A financing round from Accel and Index. Very kind of raw startup environment, 28 people just trying to change the world with a transmedia alternate reality game called Perplex City. It was a really interesting project, but ultimately commercially it didn't quite work. We had about $1 million left and tried to kind of reboot the company with a second idea that Michael, who's the kind of creative director and CEO, co-founder, had, which is a virtual world for kids, 6 to 12, a combination of Facebook, Tamagotchi, where you can adopt and build a deep emotional relationship with a pet monster. This is Katsuma, it's one of my guys. And with also an educational element, so puzzles for kids to help improve their maths, kind of reasoning, language, all sorts of stuff like that. So we were running out of money quite quickly, and a lot of the things we had to do, weren't best practice, and they weren't with a lot of strategy in mind, but they were basically keeping the plate spinning until we became profitable, which luckily we did manage to do. So really, we were a very small startup at the time, and there's a great quote from Fred Wilson, who's a pretty famous VC. Early in the startup, product decisions should be hunch-driven. Later on, product decisions should be data-driven. And I just want to kind of make it quite clear at the moment, we're a product company. So sometimes in the industry, companies like Groupon are driven by marketing. Sometimes they're led by engineers like Google, and their USP is the engineering talent to build algorithms. Sometimes they're product companies like Apple and Pixar. And it's those kind of group that we align ourselves with the most. We really believe that if we pour all our creativity and energy into a product, then all of the rest will kind of work itself out. So we don't use data to optimize the hell out of our game experience like some of the Facebook games do, just to kind of get an extra 1% of profitability. We're in it for the long term to build really deep, meaningful kids' entertainment brands and properties. So this is definitely true, though. We started off in the early days. We launched Moshi Monsters on basically no cash. We had about 4 months left of burn in the bank. Launched January 2009 with our payments. So no data, big data, too much data, the right data. So being able to use data to actually make decisions. Predictive data, which helps you understand and start to understand what your customers are going to do and how they're going to interact with things going forwards. And strategic data, which is using data to completely drive your company. So yeah, in the early days, this is basically stage one. Our kind of data warehouse and analytical platform was me with access to our game database. This is Michael texting me when I was basically asleep. So we launched the site, and yeah, this is kind of the kind of interactions we had. Obviously not very scalable because I quite like sleeping and don't really like being waking up at 7:30 asking what the latest count is. But it was great in the early days because there's a really good buzz in the company. What's the latest numbers? What's the latest numbers? How's the site growing? Is anyone going to pay for it? And this is the kind of no data phase of that path through. I got pretty fed up with that quite quickly. So, cobbling together, we had 3 engineers at the time, cobbled together a few SQL scripts that could talk to our live database, start pulling out some numbers and sending them to the management team and everyone else that's involved on a daily basis to at least get rid of that, the core kind of KPIs for the business, what people really care about, being delivered into their inbox before they wake up so that they didn't wake me up. At the time, we didn't have any cash, so we were looking for open source solutions to graphing. There really aren't many. This is kind of, mid-2009, so before SaaS and the kind of big data stuff started happening and startups started innovating in the space. This is with a Java tool called BERT, which is just a real huge pain in the ass. But it did at least allow us to take data out of the game database, map it to some fact tables for business KPIs, and show the business how we're doing with the product. And bought us just enough kind of breathing room to start thinking a little bit bigger with things. The game database is one thing, and that's kind of a OLTP database that showed a real-time view onto what the Moshi world was doing, and we were adding at that point kind of 10,000 users a day or something. So growing pretty quickly. But we wanted to really get a much deeper insight into what our users were doing. Just how many users we had wasn't really enough for us. So we kind of, again, on a shoestring budget, decided to instrument the client, which is Flash, with a kind of fairly cunningly hacked Google Analytics call. They now have an event API, which would have saved us having to do that. But so we could just start throwing like huge amounts of data into Google and at least getting a rough idea and some aggregates and some rough trends around the areas in the game that people are using a lot more. I was always quite nervous about starting to consume all of that ourselves because the client is very interactive and we can instrument it, but being suddenly hit by billions of requests a second isn't the kind of thing you want when you've got no cache for servers. So we offloaded a fair bit onto Google. But there's also quite a lot of information happening on the back end, which wasn't going into a database, but we wanted to log from the various game services. So we had a few PCs lying around, and I built a tiny Hadoop cluster with that. That's one of the big data buzzwords at the time. It had just been open sourced properly. Facebook had just open sourced Hive, which is a SQL-like query language on top of Hadoop. So does anyone use Hadoop? Do people know what it is? Trying to gauge. Okay, enough. It's a distributed processing framework, really, for unstructured data. So we started to throw all of our game backend events into flat files, put them onto the HDFS, which is the distributed file system within Hadoop, and then run some overnight scripts just to process them, pull them out, and start to send emails around those as well. So that's the kind of beginning of our big data initiative, and this is stage 2 on the process. Too much data, really, to really know what to do with it, and too much data to really be able to use effectively and analyze. But at least we're collecting it. So this is January 2009. We added a load of social features in the summer, and it meant that everything suddenly went from linear to, well, not exponential, but a lot more scary anyway. And it's really not slowed down since. So everything we needed to do needed to be thought of, like, okay, we're going to be maybe 10x this in a few months, and we definitely don't want to redo it. These are some of the different game events that we track at the time. So you've got, what kids are buying, or how many kids are buying items within shops. The game is subscription-based, by the way, so parents pay $3.95 a month for the kid to have access to premium features, and the rest of it's freemium. So it's always going to have an element of kids playing it for free. We're not making any money from them, but they're consuming all of our services and generating a lot of data. So logins, amount of cash spent within the game. Every time we add another one of these services, we have another big data problem, basically. So stage 3 was when I realized I needed a strategy to deal with this going forward. I was still spinning lots of other plates in development and engineering and NetOps. So my strategy was basically to hire someone else to look after it for me. And yeah, I'll hand over to Andrew now.
Hi, so my name's Andrew Edge. I'm Head of Business Intelligence and Information Systems at Mind Candy. And basically when I joined, probably about 14 months ago, I really saw that there was 4 main issues, and the fact that we had lots of data. At the time, we actually only integrated with a few services. So we had kind of the main game database, we had a forum, and we've got a huge actual forum community now at the moment, and a couple of payment providers. But that was soon to grow, and it continues to grow now. And actually, that's half of my job, really, is keeping up with all the different data sources. We've probably got about 40 at the moment. So I recognise that actually lots of data and the breadth of data was really, really kind of an issue, but also an opportunity. Then I realised we didn't really have an ETL platform, so really no method of actually getting hold of all these brilliant data sources and transforming them and indeed putting them anywhere. And in fact, we didn't really have a data store or a data warehouse per se. So that was required. And then issue 3, no reporting system. As Toby mentioned, there was this BERT thing that I kind of inherited, which looked pretty appalling, and wanted to get rid of it as soon as possible. And also, no platform for analysis. So really, I mean, the theme of the whole kind of event this week is making data work. And there wasn't really any opportunity to do that within our company at the time, and I really wanted to make that happen by adding that extra layer of analysis on top of some really good data that we had. So that was kind of missing. So stage 3 of the kind of whole process that Toby was talking about was to put something like this in place, a platform, BI platform. And we had all these data sources. We had, I put in place SQL Server Integration Services as a solution for ETL, a Postgres database for our data warehouse, and SQL Server reporting services. Now, we're a bit kind of reticent at first for choosing Microsoft and SQL Server, just basically because kind of wasn't our culture. We're kind of really we're an open source friendly company. We enjoy embracing new technologies, and we didn't really see it scaling without an enormous cost because of the cost of server licenses and the cost of buying new servers. So actually, we've got a very small SQL Server instance, and it's only got like about 4 gig RAM in the server. And we decided then to actually integrate it into a Postgres database instead of actually using the SQL Server one. And that meant that basically it scaled because we could just add more storage and more memory into the data warehouse itself. And also we've got a partnership with Second Quadrant, which is they deal with Postgres, and we help them with development and they help us. So it was an ideal choice. And then we had reporting services on the end, which is just really part of the whole SQL Server package. You know, we felt it's kind of really much the same as a lot of sort of static reporting solutions out there. And it does the job, in my opinion, pretty well. So that's that. In terms of size, actually, for the data warehouse, we've probably got about 250 tables. There's no real schema as such because we've got quite a huge breadth of data, as I mentioned, and lots of dimensions, lots of metrics and very few dimensions. So there's no real set structure to it. And I actually work quite dynamically and agile within the company, and that's really important, and this structure really helped with all of that. So this is kind of, once I put all that in place, this was the result, sort of nice reports. We've got about 200 reports now, all for different purposes, but it looks a lot better than the BERT report, and it has a lot more meaningful information on it, and I could schedule reports, I could send them out to people, and it was just so much easier to digest because we all know it's really hard to get people to want to consume information, even though it will make their lives a lot better and help them make decisions. So yeah, that was kind of the result of it. So this is a bit of an example of one of my integration jobs where I might get information from S3, Amazon Web Services. So we use that a lot now in the business. And rather than the cluster that Toby set up, we introduced Amazon Web Services as a thing that we wanted to use for Elastic MapReduce for. That's worked really well. And I can actually fire up huge clusters if I require through their API, automatically from SQL Server, which is great. And using just a Python script, drag the data down onto a results file, into the data warehouse. At the same time, Diablo is actually our main game database. I could get information from that as well, and marry it up in the data warehouse, giving me something like daily active users by country, really fast and effectively. And we're talking about millions and billions of rows of data in the log files, and being able to process that really quickly using Hadoop and S3 and just the power of Postgres was just amazing. And I've got a daily job that runs daily, and it takes about 20 minutes or something like that to run, which is great. So continuing stage 3, kind of that left me with having to answer loads of questions still, like Toby did, by writing SQL, as we all have to do, and some standard reporting, which was all right, but to be honest, you know, the number of reports has just grown to quite a level where it's getting quite unmanageable now. I'd like it to scale with the business, but it's just not really cutting it. And the analysis was just me, essentially. So, you know, I'd have to suggest things to people, different ways of looking at the data, and yeah, it's quite hard work when you're trying to build an infrastructure and then trying to give analysis at the same time and trying to add that extra level of value on top of it. So it's really hard work. Actually, this is going to stage 4 and 5. So once I built that platform, having all the information in one consolidated place was amazing, because I could start to do stuff like look at the number of tickets we have in our community ticketing system against traffic and activity on the site. And there's loads of examples where I've managed to actually consolidate and really combine all the data in a really meaningful way. So that's just an example of what we've done there. So yeah, this is just an example of probably what we've all experienced in terms of trying to come up with a really, really good way to help people basically get hold of the information themselves. And it's one thing trying to convince them, but you have to have a platform which is easy to use and intuitive and really quickly delivers the data to the end user. And yeah, we can build data cubes till we're blue in the face, I think, but it takes a lot of development, a lot of hard work trying to pre-aggregate all this data, and they take hours to run. And for us in MindCandy, particularly as the BI team is just myself, it was really hard to try and get something like this off the ground. So what we decided to do was actually introduce something called ClickView. Has anybody heard of ClickView? Probably a lot of people. It's an in-memory analysis tool really for letting users help themselves to the data. It's really intuitive. I'm really happy to talk about it later on if people have got any questions. It's very similar to Tableau and MicroStrategy and a lot of other solutions out there, but it really actually fitted with our business because it's got a great community, and I actually demoed it to a lot of the people in the business, and they were just gobsmacked at what it could give them. Even the most sort of data-scared people loved the thought of getting hold of this and playing around with the data and discovering information, and it's just, yeah, amazing. And I'm going to be rolling this out in the forthcoming months, and I can literally now I've built the data warehouse, just lob everything in here, and it's so quick. And all those millions and millions of records that would have taken me hours to manipulate, even with a massive cluster on Hadoop, can just simply go into this system, and it just gives great insights. So I'm going to be covering kind of all areas of the business, not just product development, which is really important to us, making the game better, as Toby talked about, not on a micro level, but actually on a kind of really delivering big, powerful changes to our users is so important, and this will help us with that even more than the data warehouse and our creative minds and stuff. And but also I want to add value to the rest of the business using this to things like marketing, which we use an awful lot, finance, the community teams that I've mentioned. So it's going to be an incredible tool. So yeah, that's kind of our data journey. Just to recap, we won't actually really reach stage 5 because as a business, we want to rely on our creativity and our innovation as much as driving the business forward by using data, and that's crucial for us. So we'll never become this company that actually totally relies on it, as Toby was mentioning before. So that's kind of why it stops there, really. So yeah, that's our kind of data platform. Thank you very much.
We have a successful product, and it's turned into a really successful brand as well. Moshi Monsters, has 60 million registered users at the moment, and when we realised the power of that, that can convert into other mediums, so we've now got #1 DS game, #1 kids magazine in the country, many videos and potential films and mobile games and all sorts of other stuff. And it's amazing the power that you can get when kids engage with a brand on a really emotional level and really enjoy the creativity inside of it. So the bet we're making now really is that the future of kids entertainment is going to start with a digital heart and expand out into these other areas, rather than normally traditionally it would start with a film, which is $20 million just to get started and to make. Now the small bets we can make by doing things online and iterating really quickly, using data to understand if the users are engaging with it and going big on the things that they are, is hugely powerful for us. When we start to talk to other industries, so for magazine publishing, for example, it's really interesting to see how effectively antiquated, no offense if anyone works in that industry, but they are. And when we can talk to them around, we understand which kids buy magazines, and which kids buy soft toys, and which kids then go and do which game things, and tying that all together in one big platform to understand, the customer's journey and the customer lifetime value across not just the online platform, but in every other offline medium as well. There's a huge value proposition for the entertainment industry there, and that's kind of the bet we're making, basically. So this is our first product, but we've got many more, and I'm really pleased that we've got a data platform that can support the business and support all of our new products without having to go through the pain of being woken up at like 7 a.m. every morning for a few months.